eventually. Alright, so addition and subtraction formulas. These guys are basically called the sum and difference formulas for sine, cosine, and tangent. Now, what we mean by sum and difference is this whole, we're used to having 1x, 1 theta, 1 angle, whatever it is, in here. What if we have more than one? What if we have two things added together? What if we have two things subtracted? Whatever the case may be. You are expected to know these formulas. Okay? So that's something you guys need to work on this week, is learning these formulas. The three addition formulas are as follows. If you have sine of two angles, then it's sine of the first, cosine of the second, plus cosine of the first, sine of the second. So if I were to split this up so I no longer have two things in here, it would be sine of the first, cosine of the second, plus cosine of the first, sine of the second. So you're going to use cosine and sine to split up a sine double angle, or a sine addition or subtraction rather. Cosine double angle, whereas with sine you end up with a sine and a cosine together both times. For cosine, the cosines stay together and the sines stay together. And addition here results in subtraction out here. So cosine of the first times cosine of the second minus sine of the first times sine of the second. And with tangent, you split up the top, tangent of the first plus tangent of the second. That goes on top of your fraction. And on the bottom, you end up with 1 minus tangent A times tangent B. For subtraction, for sine, it's the same as the addition, only you have subtraction in between instead of addition. For cosine, it's the same as addition, except for instead of subtraction here, you end up with addition there. They're backwards. Cosine is backwards compared to what you would normally think. And tangent subtraction means you subtract on top, add on the bottom, whereas when you add on top, subtract on the bottom. So they do a lot of the same things, just with opposite signs or signs placed in the opposite location. Are we okay with this? Now we're going to actually use it. So, we're going to start with evaluating. Now, by evaluating, that means your answer should be a what? It's not an equation anymore. It's a small expression that should be mostly numbers. Unless the problem gave you, like here, we're given a theta. Obviously, you can't get a number for theta. But if I know the cosine of pi over 2, I should be able to find that, right? That should give me an actual number. So, we're going to go through those and evaluate. On your homework tonight, you have a section that's evaluating and a section on proving. So we're going to kind of mimic that from our notes, okay? So for the first one, we're going to use the sine, sum, or difference formula. Which one? Should be sum, because that's sum. So, expand it. What should it say? Sine pi over 2 cosine theta. What's cosine pi over 2 sine theta? So right at this moment in time, you should recognize that this is just going to have to be what it is. I'm not going to be able to make that any simpler than that. But I can simplify the pi over 2 pieces. Why is that? That's 90 degrees. So if you're looking at your cosine sine chart, which you guys should know by heart, you can find all of that information. What's the sine of pi over 2? 1. What's the cosine of pi over 2? So I have 0 times sine of theta and 1 times cosine of theta, so what's my overall answer? Sine theta got multiplied by 0. So this should just be cosine theta. And that's my final answer. Are we okay with that? So if we use the cosine formula, what do we do there? What's different about that? So there's subtraction between the two terms, whereas sine we have addition, and then you keep the two together. So cosine with cosine, sine with sine. you should have cosine of pi over 2 times the cosine of theta minus the sine of pi over 2 times the sine of theta. Using the same information, what is the cosine of pi over 2? 0. So I know right now my first term's gone, right? I just have a negative, and then what's the sine of pi over 2? 1. And then I have the sine of theta.
It'd be negative sine of theta.
So you have negative sine of theta, and that's all that's left. Are you okay with that? How about the last one, using tangent? Anytime you have a tangent sum or difference, you should end up with a fraction to start with. It might simplify and end up being no fraction later on, but you definitely need a fraction to start with. So, how does this look? Tangent pi plus tangent theta.
Sorry, the one I gave you was back to back of every other page. So I was replacing it. Will do.
Alright, so we have tangent pi plus tangent theta over what?
1 minus tangent pi times tangent theta.
Alright, so what is the tangent of pi? Sine divided by cosine. So it should be 0. Guys, sine is 0, cosine is negative 1. Tangent is sine over cosine. The sine here is 0, the cosine is negative 1, so my answer is 0. So I have 0 plus tangent of theta over 1 minus 0 times tangent of theta. So what's on top? Tangent theta. I'm running out of space. What's on the bottom? Just 1, because it's 1 minus 0 times something. 0 times anything makes that gone. It's no longer there. So what is the answer to this, actually? Just tangent theta. Are we okay with this? What's the time looking like? Can you tell
What?
on the time?
Oh, 7 minutes.
Go ahead and stop it, and we'll restart it.